Hello, everybody. How you doing tonight? Chris Wright Killatia here with the God Game, and we're here with Mike here for the game Below the Stone. Tell a little bit about yourself before we continue on with the game.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Carroll or Mike Strollart, working on Below the Stone as the designer, artist, and producer. So if any questions are asked, I have the answers to them.
Okay. Awesome, man. One of the more interesting thing I found about this game is the publisher Apogee game, which a lot of people would know, especially if they're into the retro PC gaming side of things. I thought they kind of rebranded themselves as 3D Realms like many years ago, but it seems like they're coming back in style with this one.
Oh yeah, thank you. I mean, Apogee seems to be from you know I of course I can speak a little bit toward them that they're looking for indie games that are unique, something that's a little bit different. Of course, I kind of go into this conversation with a lot of people that AAA games seem to not want to take those risks that indie games often do, that a little bit of experimentation or trying something maybe that was old that AAA companies just aren't willing to take the risk on. And you've seen these games happen, I mean, year after year, these big AAA companies, and they'll kind of redo the same game over and over and over again just because it works, you know? But the thing is, they also don't innovate the way that indie games do. So I think that is exactly the kind of image that Apogee is trying to do with their new titles.
Okay, that's pretty good. So tell us a little bit about Below the Stones and what makes it set off from said AAA games.
Oh, of course. So Below the Stone is a roguelike about dwarves. The Where every adventure, every descent you go down into these mines, it is a new adventure. It's a procedurally generated world where each time you go down, there's going to be new creatures, new biomes, and new experiences for players to encounter. And in every adventure, you're going to come across resources and things you can collect where when you return to your hub area, the Dwarven Kingdom, you'll be able to do your crafting, safely store your items and your equipment to prepare for your next adventure down into the mines. And this can go on for hours or a 10-minute break. It's something where the player has control over the amount of time they decide to spend down below the surface or below the stone.
That's cool. And and you were before we started the interview, you were mentioning about the different kind of biodomes that players would experience. Do you mind going into a little bit more detail about that?
Oh, of course. Now, of course, like you mentioned before the interview, we were talking about that. We're planning that as you go down into these mines, down underground, under the surface, you'll see dozens of new biomes that obviously, as the artist, I have to end up crafting and have crafted so far. And what ends up happening where we have layers to the game, right? Where as you go deeper, you'll find new biomes and new creatures and new resources, of course, to craft and create new equipment. And we're hoping that essentially every time you go down, you'll encounter a new kind of experience each time due to the amount of unique biomes that we have in place.
Okay, and tell us a little bit about the creature that possibly will possibly be approaching in the game, if I use
Oh, of
that
course.
term correctly.
Yeah. I think look, we have a lot basically in every biome we have a unique creature. And that's the plan that going forward we're going to have a unique monster for every biome. So I mean, that's a tall list for me to do, obviously. But what's going to end up happening is, and we already have this set up and planned and done for the first layer, where every single biome will have a unique creature that you can encounter. And of course, we'll have themes for every layer of the game where perhaps on the first layer, there happens to be more kobolds that you run into, kobolds being almost goblin like creatures that the dwarves have to encounter on their first sort of playthrough in the game. So players will first encounter kobolds as sort of a um, what would you say, like a tutorial, kind of learning your way through everything. Not so tough, maybe a little bit, um, slow in the head, but of course, dangerous in groups. And then as you go down deeper, you might run into more dangerous enemies like a cave troll, perhaps, that'll really teach a new player a lesson when, you know, you just finished prepping your gear on the first layer, you got all this new equipment. You're like, yeah, I did really good on that first layer. Then you meet a cave troll and realize that, the challenge doesn't go away just because you beat the first layer. And, you know, one shot or two shots from a cave troll, that'll do it for a dwarf.
Okay, so obviously these are like going to be unique and challenging enemies, and of course there are going to be like plenty of items and different kind of weaponry you can craft and such. Do you mind telling us a little bit about these items and such?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And we basically have a system where as you go back and uh, bring your resources back to the kingdom, you'll find that you'll be able to craft your resources, your iron, your tin, your copper, your platinum, gold, silver, mythical ores like mithril, adamantite. You'll be able to turn this into axes or swords or even sets of armor. And you might even be able to bring some magic resources back to create spell books and staves and all sorts of different types of weapons. So you can really customize your character in lots of different ways, not just from armor and weapons, but almost Terraria esque, where every weapon you have is itemized, and you'll be able to equip your hotbar with any sort of weapon and set of character traits that you want for your character. So you can create more of a rogue-like character, or maybe a warrior who happens to have healing spells. That's what we kind of want for Below the Stone. We want people to be able to sort of create their own way of playing the game.
Pretty good. And I wasn't really expecting there to be, magic. Can you go a little bit more in detail with the magic?
Well, of course, we're early in the game a little bit, so magic isn't quite implemented yet, but we're planning on making it so there'll be craftable spell books, staves, perhaps various items you can find in the caves as well, because we're hoping that there'll be dungeons with loot chests that you'll be able to find unique items in that you can't craft. So when you bring them back to the kingdom, they have extra value due to that. You can only find them down in the mines.
That's pretty cool. And I know that on the many platforms that you have planned for the game, going to be on PS4, 5, Xbox Series X, S, and One, and of course on the Nintendo Switch. Of course, oh, I don't want to forget about the PC either. Yeah, of course, each platform has those like their own unique challenges and such. So, which one would you say was the most difficult or the most easiest to work with?
So Apogee has helped us a lot. And when we signed up with Apogee, that was such an important deal for us because we realized that offloads a lot of the work that will allow us to have this game experienced by so many players that might not have been able to experience it before. So that's why that was a huge part of signing with Apogee.
Well, I'm glad they're able to help you bring this game to so many potential customers when it comes out later next year.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for your time, Mike. It was nice to talk to you about this game, and it was nice to meet you.
Oh, it was nice to meet you. And I'm glad that you gave me the time to answer some of these questions and talk about Apogee and Below the Stone.
No problem, man. And keep up the good work.